There's a meat processing facility in Southern California that processes millions of pounds of beef every year. It's not owned by a food company. It's owned by Costco, a warehouse club that sells kayaks and flat-screen televisions. The facility cost over $300 million to build. And here's the strange part. They built it for a product that loses them money. A hot dog and soda combo that sells for $1.50, the exact same price it cost in 1985. When inflation threatened to kill that price, when their longtime supplier demanded more money, Costco didn't negotiate a better deal. They didn't raise the price by 50 cents and hoped nobody noticed. They built an entire factory from scratch. And then, 5 years later, they spent $450 million and did it again. This is the story of how a stubbornly cheap hot dog became one of the most sophisticated business strategies in American retail. By the early 2000s, Costco had a serious problem brewing. For decades, they'd sourced their hot dogs from Hebrew National, a well-known brand with a loyal following. The arrangement worked fine through the 80s and 90s. But the economics were breaking down, beef prices were climbing, supply chain costs were rising across the board. Hebrew National needed to raise their wholesale prices to stay profitable. This is completely normal. Every supplier eventually does this, and every retailer either absorbs the cost or passes it along to customers. But Costco's co-founder, Jim Sinegal, refused both options. When the CEO suggested they raise the retail price, Sinegal told him, "If you raise the price of the effing hot dog, I will kill you. Figure it out." Their solution? Spend millions to guarantee they'd keep losing money. Costco decided to become their own supplier. They built a hot dog manufacturing facility, developed a proprietary recipe under the Kirkland Signature brand, and cut Hebrew National out of the equation entirely. A retail warehouse company, a place that sells toilet paper in bulk and Christmas decorations, decided to enter the meat processing industry from scratch. New equipment, new supply contracts, new food safety protocols, new logistics infrastructure, tens of millions of dollars in capital investment, all to protect the price of a hot dog that was already losing them money on every single transaction. The new Kirkland hot dogs weren't cheaper because they cut corners or used inferior ingredients. They actually made them bigger. A quarter-pound all-beef Frank replaced what had been a smaller product. They improved the hot dog, kept the price identical, and absorbed the entire cost of building a production operation from the ground up. The result? Costco went from being at the mercy of a supplier's pricing power to controlling every variable in the chain: the recipe, the sourcing, the production, the cost per unit. And the hot dog isn't the only product where Costco has decided that losing money is a strategy. Walk into any Costco around 5 in the afternoon and you'll see it. A wall of rotisserie chickens sitting under heat lamps, golden brown, perfectly seasoned, priced at $4.99. That chicken is almost certainly the cheapest hot prepared meal you can buy from any major retailer in the country. And it's been $4.99 for over a decade, through avian flu outbreaks, through supply chain crises, through the highest food inflation the country has seen in 40 years. The cost to Costco? They lose an estimated $30 to $40 million per year on rotisserie chickens alone. And just like the hot dog, when the poultry suppliers needed to raise prices, Costco didn't negotiate. They spent $450 million building one of the largest chicken processing plants in the United States. The Fremont, Nebraska complex is massive. It processes over 2 million chickens every single week. But Costco didn't stop at just processing. They went even further upstream in the supply chain. They started contracting directly with local farmers, over 100 of them across the region. Costco provides the chicks. Costco provides the feed. Costco controls the specifications and the timeline. They own the entire chain from the farm to the rotisserie oven sitting in the store. A company that sells patio furniture and car tires now operates one of the largest vertically integrated poultry operations in the Midwest. At this point, the pattern becomes undeniable. This isn't about being stubborn on pricing. This is a deliberate, systematic strategy to spend hundreds of millions of dollars in infrastructure to guarantee that certain products will always lose money. No rational business does this, unless losing money on those specific products is the actual business model. Costco barely makes any profit on the products they sell. In fact, on most items, they're essentially breaking even. Internally, Costco has a strict rule. No product can carry a markup higher than roughly 14 to 15%. For context, a typical grocery store marks products up 25 to 50%. Some specialty retailers go even higher. Premium brands can push 70 or 80% margins. Costco caps theirs at 15. Their margins are so thin that if you just looked at product sales, Costco would look like one of the worst-run retailers in America. So if they're not making money on what they sell, where does the profit actually come from? The membership. Every single person shopping in a Costco warehouse has paid $65 for a basic membership or $130 for the executive tier. That membership revenue, over $4 billion annually, accounts for 75% of Costco's operating profit. Essentially, most of the actual profit this company generates comes from a plastic card in your wallet, which means the hot dog and chicken don't need to be profitable. They need to make you renew. And it works with brutal efficiency. Costco's membership renewal rate is over 90%. In the business world, that's not a retail metric. That's a subscription business metric. That's Netflix territory. That's software as a service retention rates. Costco isn't a store that charges a membership fee. It's a membership company that happens to operate warehouses full of products. The hot dog, the chicken, the famously cheap gasoline. Those aren't products. They're proof. They're evidence that the membership delivers value. Every time you walk past that food court and see that $1.50 price tag, you're being reminded that your $65 was money well spent. And the factories? The factories guarantee that no supplier, no market fluctuation, no commodity price spike, no economic crisis can ever take away that proof. When you control the entire supply chain, you control the price, forever. But if products are priced near cost, and the membership is where the money comes from, why does the average Costco customer spend over $100 every single time they walk through those doors? The answer is 3 psychological mechanisms working on you simultaneously. First mechanism, sunk cost fallacy. You've already paid $65 for your annual membership. That money is gone. It's spent. But every time you choose to shop at a regular grocery store instead of Costco, you feel like you're wasting that membership fee. So you go to Costco more often than you otherwise would, just to justify money you've already spent. That's not rational economic behavior. That is textbook sunk cost fallacy, and Costco's entire revenue model is built on exploiting it. Second mechanism, limited selection. This one breaks people's assumptions about how retail works. Costco only carries around 3,700 products. Walmart carries over 100,000. Target carries around 80,000. When you're choosing between 2 brands of olive oil instead of 20, you decide faster. You second-guess yourself less. You experience less decision fatigue. You move on to the next aisle sooner. Limited choice doesn't slow you down. It speeds you up. You cover more of the warehouse in less time. You see more product categories. And you make more impulse decisions because you're not mentally exhausted from comparing 17 varieties of pasta sauce. Third mechanism, strategic layout design. There are no aisle signs in Costco. The floor plan changes regularly. Products get moved to different locations every few months. And basic staples like milk and eggs, the items most people actually came to buy, are always placed deep in the back corner of the warehouse. To get to them, you have to walk past televisions, past furniture, past entire product categories you had absolutely no intention of browsing when you pulled into the parking lot. Because everything feels like a deal. Because you trust that Costco's markups are razor thin, your psychological resistance to impulse purchases drops dramatically. You walked in for paper towels and milk. You're leaving with a winter jacket, a new TV stand, a rotisserie chicken, and $200 on your receipt. That's not poor planning. That's a system designed by people who understood human psychology well enough to build a $4 billion recurring revenue stream around it. So why doesn't every retailer just copy this? Because the model requires something that almost no public company is willing to tolerate, making almost no profit on the products you actually sell. Walmart can't do it. Their shareholders expect healthy product margins. If Walmart announced they were capping all markups at 15%, Wall Street would savage the stock price overnight. Target tried launching a membership program. It failed within a few years. They don't have the discipline to keep prices low enough to justify the annual fee. Amazon tried competing with physical warehouse-style shopping through various experiments, but they can't replicate the specific in-store psychology that makes Costco's model work. You can't impulse buy a kayak on a website the same way you do when it's sitting on a pallet directly in your path. The treasure hunt element doesn't translate to e-commerce. And now the factories add yet another layer of competitive protection. Because Costco controls the supply chain for its most strategically critical loss leaders, no competitor can undercut those specific prices without taking catastrophic losses. You can't sell a hot dog for $1.50 if your supplier is charging you $1.40. Costco doesn't have that constraint. They are the supplier. They control the cost structure all the way down to the raw ingredients. The membership creates predictable recurring revenue. The loss leaders protect the membership's perceived value. And the factories protect the loss leaders from external economic forces. It's a closed loop. Every element reinforces the others. And it cost over $500 million to construct. Costco spent hundreds of millions of dollars building factories to protect products that lose money on every single transaction. On paper, that decision looks completely insane. But once you understand that the hot dog isn't the product, the predictability is, it becomes one of the most elegant business architectures ever designed. That $1.50 price tag isn't generosity, it's a promise. A guarantee that certain things won't change, even when everything else in the economy does. And that guarantee is what renews 90% of memberships year after year. The factories ensure that no external force can ever break that promise. When other retailers were forced to raise prices during recent inflation, Costco didn't blink. They controlled their own supply chains. They absorbed the costs internally. So the next time you walk into Costco planning to grab a hot dog and walk out 5 minutes later, and instead find yourself in the checkout line 30 minutes later with $300 worth of items you didn't know you needed, that wasn't an accident. That was a system designed by people who understood that controlling the supply chain for a single loss leader product could protect a $4 billion annual recurring revenue stream. The hot dog is bait. The chicken is proof. The membership is the product. And the factory is what makes absolutely certain that no competitor, no market force, no economic reality can ever disrupt the loop. That's not retail, that's architecture. And it might be the most perfectly designed business model in American commerce.